peeps. I don't get many viewers, but I'm not worried, I'm not bothered. I do this game, or I play this game, mainly because I have nothing better to do all day other than, you know, everyday things such as housework, which, trust me, I desperately need to get on with, but also because I enjoy the game. And the Hunter DD33, DD33, whatever you want to call him, put out a video last night, this morning, UK time, discussing the state of Great Ones and the level of insanity that it creates, and that it shouldn't be in the game, and that it should be a more natural type of thing, that, you know, you have a chance of just bumping into one in the wild, which is how it would really be, unless of course you are a full-blown professional hunter, and in which case, you know, you'd find the tracks, you'd follow it, get to know its routine, where it goes, where it feeds, where it drinks, where it craps, where it rubs its horns, and so on and so forth. You'd get to know the animal inside out, and then with a bit of luck one day, if you've done everything right, the wind direction's suitable, the weather's like appropriate, and so on and so forth, if you're really, really lucky in real life, you'll spot it and you'll be able to take it and harvest it, stick it on your wall or stick it in your freezer, but you know, you'll take it. Will this game ever be able to achieve that? Not in its current version, and definitely not in its current state. If you understand what the definition of insanity is, or supposedly the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again in the same way, expecting a different result and never getting it. That is the definition of insanity, the fact that you will just keep on doing the same thing over and over and over again in exactly the same way, expecting a different result each time. It's not going to happen. So if we ever get to a version 3 of this game, which I would assume is highly likely, especially with Unreal Engine 5. What are we up to now? 5.2, 5.3, something like that. You know, you can have massive maps, and if you could put into effect a bit of imagination, that you would be able to put down areas such as big massive open plains, so that you can have the animals like the plains bison where it should be, out on the plains, and that you just don't focus for it in the water or at their drink zones. And you'd be able to set up proper feeding times. None of this 4-hour block. You know, they might be in this area for half an hour, or they might move on to this area for an hour. Make it more realistic, make it so that you've got to stalk, make it so that you've got to hunt. But the game could also put things down, such as using your imagination. You draw a picture of a landscape, and you will put in, say, something like wild blueberries wherever you would expect to find wild blueberries growing, whether they're in woodland, whether it's on the side of a hill or whatever. But then you could introduce the seasons so that when they're in season, that the animals will migrate to those areas to stock up on food. You know, if you was to do that and introduce it, then obviously you've got to bring seasons and years into game. And if you're going to bring seasons and years into game, then allow the animals to age. And as they age, allow them to get more aware, more instinctive, and to make them more difficult to hunt. Any predators that you have in the game, let them predate as they would naturally. The weak, the sick, and the stupid. They're the ones that get killed. If you're a hunter, you know this. The animal, when you shoot it, is not aware that you are there. Does it make it stupid? Not necessarily so, because we've devised so many things in real life to give the hunter the best advantage as is possible. Scents, lures, baits. Do I agree with baiting for animals? Not in particular. I don't think you should, because it's not natural. What would be natural is for you to get to know your species inside out, and if they could introduce that into a game, then it would be realistic. But then, as I've discussed a few times in the past, how I can't say government policies, because they're not government policies, it's businesses' policies. So people like the G7, the G10, the G20, whatever, but they dictate how things go, such as right now where you're in a depression and inflation and so on and so forth, that somewhere along the line they have decided it is time for a purge. You will have higher degrees of suicide, you will have higher degrees of people that, even though they're eating, they're effectively going to die of the effects of malnutrition because they can't afford to eat healthily, and they don't know how to eat healthily. They can't go out and hunt and catch their own food, so they eat unhealthy processed crap because it's cheap and has very little nutritious value. And they'll do the same with, or the impression I have, and I'm an old boy now, I've been around for a lot of years, but I now have the impression that when it comes to gaming, they want to remove the fun out of games, because otherwise people like the Hunter Double D33 would sit there, and the likes of Flinter and Scarecrow and Lady Legend and so on and so forth, they make a game, they make a living out of this by playing the game for hours and hours and hours. And they're good at it. I'm not saying they're not good at playing the game. And then you have those wonderful smart people who figured out that if you shoot certain level animals, the game has to put in higher levels in order to keep the game balanced. And then you start going into the grind of grinding a certain species of certain levels. You only shoot them at that level, and eventually it forces the game to pop a great one in. Is it realistic? No. Is it true to life in the way that you would manage a herd? Yes. But when you do herd management, you want to take away the low quality genes, whereas in this game you want to take away the high quality genes in the hope of generating another animal of a higher quality, i.e. the great one. So it works in the opposite way. So it's not particularly realistic along those type of lines, but the process, if you like, is in the way that if you're doing herd management, you want to remove the stupid and the weak and the ones that don't have particularly good genes, and if you have too many of a certain animal, you have to do a cull in order to try and keep your environment balanced. But that's because you're on a reserve. You can only manage the land that you own. So, you know, a lot comes into it, and it's heartbreaking to me because, like I say, removing the fun out of the game so that you, as in the players, will not enjoy the game as much as the game originally intended you to enjoy it, and that other people get involved and manipulate the development of a game, i.e. putting in a crappy landscape so that you will fall backwards and all sorts of stupid manoeuvres in order to slow you down, when in reality all that would happen is that you would slow down naturally climbing up a steep incline. Would you slip back every so often? Yes, but you would slow down. This game doesn't do it. This game allows you to keep going at the same speed, whereas in reality you cannot do a 200 metre dash uphill at the same speed as what you can do a 200 metre dash on the level. But in this game you can, so it's not realistic in those type of terms. Putting in those types of landscapes are done, in my opinion, and it is only my opinion, to frustrate the hell out of you, to get you angry, to get you miffed, to get you to the point where you're just like, you know what, I'm just not in the mood, I can't do this, I can't be doing with it, and you quit the game. And you'll come back to it a few hours later when you've calmed down. But the point being is the game mechanics have effectively pushed you out of the game. My own mentality, and I might be cranky, and I do have mental issues, don't deny it, but it seems as if the powers that be do not want you sat on your back end playing a game when you should be at work paying your taxes and contributing to the world's economy, which in reality, you know, eventually it works its way to something like the top 7 people in the world, like, who has all of the money. It all, you know, it's like crap, it only rolls downhill, it don't roll uphill, and that's what happens. But then you have to ask the question, well, whose game is it anyway? Is it ours, as in the players? Well, no, we didn't develop it. Is it the developers? In reality, yes, it's their game. But then the big boys come along and say, people are having too much fun playing your game. You need to make it harder, you need to make it so that people don't enjoy it so much, because otherwise when you release the next iteration, people are taking time off work, they throw sickies and they take time off work and they book their holidays at inappropriate times because you've released your game at this time, at the latest version, with the latest map, with the latest animal, or so on and so forth. So it's then no longer the developer's game. And if they want to ignore that request, because it isn't an order, it is a form of a request, but then you have to work it out that the big boys, and I'm not saying they're doing it, I'm not pointing the finger at any particular person, but then you have the big boys such as Microsoft who sit there and say, well, you know, if you're not going to play by the ball, then we're not going to give you the latest operating system to develop your latest game version on anymore. We're not going to give it to you. If you want it from now on, you're going to have to pay for it, which then drives up the game of you, like the game's price, and then it drives it out of people's pocket and your business goes bye-bye because people can't afford it anymore. So you're in a position where you're always being manipulated by, the big boys. Intel could sit there and say, we're not going to provide you with chips anymore. You're great developers and so on and so forth, but you don't play by the rules. We're not going to provide you with the development chips anymore, so you can't develop your code to suit, and so on and so forth. So in reality, it's never your business, it's always theirs. So even though the content creators, such as Expansive Worlds, it's not really their business. It's allowed to run, it's allowed to function, it's allowed to do, because it makes money ultimately for the big boys, the shareholders, and so on and so forth. But it's never theirs, and it's never yours. Sad, but it is the reality of it. So, I get where the Hunter Double D33 is coming from. Totally understand his perspective on it, and he's right. It's not hunting, it's game playing. Those fortunate few who have become really successful at streaming the game, look at their subscriber count, you'll find them. They're the people who have hours to be able to put into the game, but then however they make their money from it, whether it's by membership, whether it's by advertising revenue, sponsorship, whatever, however they make their money, it doesn't matter, because then they're giving something back, as in an advertising platform. They make money out of the advertising, and once they start making money and can make a living out of it, they start paying their taxes and so on and so forth, rather than like me, where I'm just sat on my ass playing a game for hours at a time. I'm not making anybody any money. So why should I be having fun if I'm not making anybody any money? Think about it. People like me will eventually burn out on playing this game, especially with grinding. And I've played this game for over 2 years, or about 2 years. Have I ever got a great one? No. Do I want one? It'd be nice to get one, but I don't want to grind for it. The only reason that I am doing this particular series of streams that I have done, i.e. can you level up 0 to 60 or 1 to 60 just using missions, done it. And you can complete all of the missions on the 2 maps that come with the game for free. You can do them all before you reach level 60. The next one, the quickest way to grind as a beginner and the fastest way to get yourself to level 60. I was convinced it was Goose, so I did it, and it worked out at about 300 times faster than doing the missions. This one now is, as a beginner player, leveling up from 1 to 60. If you follow the principles of grinding, will you get a great one before you reach level 60? That's what this pointer series is. Will I be doing herd management? No, not really. All I'm interested in doing is I could be taking the level 1s out of the game, but all I'm going to do is generate level 1s. Could it effectively work the opposite way? So if I take level 2s, I have a chance to, the animal I kill will either come back as a level 1 or a level 3 or a level 2. If I take away level 1s, and the game has already got a lot of level 2s in the game for grinders, would it work the opposite way? If I start shooting all the level 1s, will they have the possibility of being able to be coming back as a level 3 because all of the level 2 slots are already occupied? It can only come back as a level 1 for a certain amount of time before all the level 1 slots are full, and after that it has to come back as something. Or does it? Yeah. Without knowing the code, I would never know the answer. Or without seeing the code, I would never know the answer. And if I knew the code, then it wouldn't be no fun anymore. And as much as I bitch and moan and groan about this game, I still enjoy playing it. Does it get me angry? Yes. Does it wind me up? Yes. Do I find it boring at times? Yes. All of the above. Will I stop playing it? Eventually, yes. I will get bored of it and I will move on to something else. And especially if they keep going down the slippery slope of removing the fun from the game. Grinding to me is not fun. It's not realistic unless you are doing a cull. And if you are going to cull or eradicate, then, you know, that's what you would do. You would just shoot anything and everything. So make your own mind up. At the end of the day, it's a game. It's supposed to be fun. Don't allow them to remove the fun out of the game in the way that you play it. And if it's no longer fun for you to play it, then vote with your feet. Move on. Find yourself another game that's fun. But trust me, it will happen to that game at some point. Games that are not popular and don't have millions of people who watch the streams, thousands of people who subscribe to channels, those games, they're still out there. They're good fun. But once they become popular, they will be manipulated to bring in the frustration into the game so that you, the player, will not play it for hours. They don't want you... I don't want to use the term addicted, because to me you can't be addicted to a game. You're not going to suffer withdrawal and have the chance of having a seizure just because you're not playing a game. So games aren't addictive in that sense. But if you have too much fun, I suppose with your serotonin levels and so on and so forth, it might become a form of an addiction that needs to be fed to keep your brain chemistry right and so on and so forth. But if you start to have too much fun at something, like I say, they will find some way so that you cannot make, or you can't have so much fun that you are not going to go to work and you are not going to pay your taxes. Now, I've never fitted in. I've always been that round ball trying to get into a square hole. You know, I don't fit. I've never fitted in. I've always been outspoken, and I've always been able to see where people are being manipulated and controlled. You know, the best place for me would have been somewhere such as Alaska or Canada, you know, way out in the wild where I can hunt and fish and not see anybody. If I'd never have discovered the internet, would I have been different? Probably. If I'd been out in the wilds and living, to me, what would have been a natural life, I'd never have known the internet. I might not have survived. I might have been chewed on by a grizzly by now. You know, I don't know. But it is the lifestyle that was meant for me, and I've known it ever since being a early teenager. Well, not early teenager, but mid-range teenager. But like I say, I don't fit in. I find it very difficult to keep a real job. And my real problem in life is I'm not driven by money. I am literally driven by enjoyment. If I enjoy doing something, I will do that something for somebody else for free. I don't need paying. My enjoyment comes, or my reward comes, from seeing somebody else's reaction when their problem has been solved and I've solved that problem for them. That's my payment. Cash comes in handy. It's not the be all and end all. Well, it is for survival, because without it you can't buy food unless you live right out away from the cities and that you're in an environment where you can hunt and provide for yourself. Do I think it's what mankind needs to do? Yes. Don't be part of the rat race. It's not going to reward you. If you think that money and, super possessions are going to make you feel good about yourself, forget it. It's not going to. Is it a measure of your success as a person? If you feel that way, I feel sorry for you. But that's my rant over and done with. Whether I'll get any comments for it, I've got no idea. Whether I'll get any likes for it, no idea. Do I give a toss? Not at all. I'd actually like the likes, because it means that then the reason that I do this is making people, hopefully, a little bit happier, making their life a little bit more, inverted commas, fun. Do what you do. If you don't like what you do, stop doing it and do something else until you do. If you're happy going to work for somebody else, and that the wage that you get is all the happiness that you need, fill your boots. Just do what you want to do. Don't be sheep. Some people are happy to be sheep and to live life in ignorance and bliss, or so-called bliss. Unfortunately for me, I'm not one of them. My brain does not work that way, which is why I don't fit in, which is why they say I have mental issues, because I don't fit in. So, I think that's enough of that subject. I suppose I ought to get back on with this. As boring as it is, but even though it is boring, I do enjoy it. But you get the idea. This game, in its current state, in its current iteration, is not reality, and it may as well just be seen as you versus aliens, and that every so often that the great one, if you like, is where you take out the field marshal in the field of war. But if you're looking at it from hunting perspective, no, it's not realistic, and it never will be. So there you go, there's my rant over and done with. But thank you for The Hunter, Double D, 33. Excellent video, mate. Needed to be said, and I'm glad it's one of the larger streamers that have said it. So I shall figure out a way of seeing if I can link his video in to this one's heading somewhere. I will share that particular video of his because it certainly needs sharing, it certainly needs putting around. He says a lot of good points in it. So well done to him, and it's interesting to see the comments from other inverted commas top streamers of this game, and that where they are fundamentally agreeing with what he says, that you are just going to drive yourself crazy trying to grind and harvest yourself a great one. You imagine, like I say, look at this map. It would be, and I dare say you could play it that way, but you've got all your contours, not particularly accurate, but you know, you've got your contours like this to let you know what the terrain's like. You've got a 3D representation, if you like, on a two-dimensional image, but you can see what is lumpy, what is rocky, and so on and so forth. And it would be a lot more sensible if the game was to put animal species into those type of areas that belong in those type of areas. And to a certain extent the game does do it. But this game has become that you will haunt the watering areas where they go for drinks. And then the question is like I say, if you did have, I don't know, let's say if this area was a big massive plain because you wanted to do bison hunting, well, you know, when you see bison, well, I've never seen one so I can't say with any accuracy, but when you see wildlife programs that, you know, they just plod along grazing and they're there for hours, and I mean hours, as much daylight as what there is. You know, they're just there from early daylight till dusk, just munching on the grass, you know, 10, 12, 14 hours. And they're there. What do we get? 4 hours. And that's if they turn up on time. They're supposed to be, according from the game, 8 o'clock till 12 o'clock. But it's only a time window. It is not a guarantee. The guarantee is that at least one animal of that species will be in that area between those hours. That's all it is. It's no guarantee that the animal is going to turn up. None. Or no guarantee that the animal is going to be there from 8 o'clock till 12 o'clock. So in that way, it's a bit of realism. What I would much prefer to see is that if these animals were to turn up, these ones that are in here now, if I was to sit here for half an hour to an hour, that those deer will have their fill of water and will leave, and that potentially another herd will come in, and that they'll have a bit of time at the watering hole, 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, 43 and a half minutes if you want to be a bit more random, and that then they would leave and another herd would come in, and that these herds would have some form of pecking order, so that the herd that has the biggest and the strongest males gets to go first, so on and so forth. Can you put that kind of realism into a game? Yes, I think you can. But that's the type of thing that I would like to see, and then you'd be able to have your great one, the top, inverted commas, dog, the boss of the herd, the one who is the strongest and the fittest and the wisest. And in reality, you don't want to take him out whilst he's in his prime, because you want his genes to be passed on so that you get more and more and more of his quality. I'd be much happier with that in a hunting game. And then people who live in cities could have a more realistic experience of hunting, despite being in an area that they would never be able to see these kind of animals in reality unless they went on holiday somewhere. Ooh, gut shot. Miss. But only because I'm too busy chin wagging instead of concentrating on what I'm doing. But, we have real good PCs, game consoles now. Memory's pretty cheap. So, been able to write games that would be able to emulate and simulate nature is more than possible now. There's no reason why they couldn't just make it like real time. But if it was real time, it would only have the appeal to those who are real hunters and like the realism. And unless you've got somebody to teach you and to, give you the wisdom of how to hunt successfully, as a beginner, you ain't going to shoot much. Like I say, as a starter, you will literally only get the animals that are sick, weak, stupid, young, because they're the things that can't get away from you quick enough. They are the things that when you first start hunting that you will shoot and have success at. Those animals that have reached maturity or adulthood and have survived the predators picking them off, they have become smart and wise and intelligent, and you as a beginner will see nothing of them other than through binoculars and having to take long range shots. It's the only way that you will ever get close to a proper fit and healthy wild animal. So in order to get the advantage is where you would start to study and very much like the assassin, that you would get to know your target inside out to increase your probability of success. You will find your hotspots that either just yourself know or very few other people know, because you've put in the time. This game cannot emulate that type of stuff. Should finding a great one be easy? Absolutely not. Should it be more difficult than just sitting at the side of a watering hole waiting for it? Yeah, absolutely. It should be a damn sight more difficult. But, you know, deer are herding animals, so it would make sense that a great one would have a herd with it. But in reality, like I say, I wouldn't have shot that one. I would have taken the two weaker ones out of it. I want the big ones to survive and pass on their genes. The only time I want to take a time I want to take a decent healthy male out of a herd is when he is pretty much old and decrepit, and then he's worth a trophy. What, a trophy mounting, you'll have it stuffed and mounted, or you know, you'll do the lop off his top of his skull and take his horns and stick them on a plaque. And the chances are his meat wouldn't be particularly good eating. By the time he's got to that age, he's probably well and truly gamey and be as tough as eating a pair of Roman sandals, as in, you know, the ones that are over 2,000 years old. Yeah, it's going to take a bit of chewing. They are effectively only good for a slow crock pot roast type of thing, like, and for turning into stew. So yeah, there's realism in this game. Not enough of it, but there are elements to it that are. But at the end of the day, it is a game. Do I get the idea that they have to reduce the fun count so that children will go to school and people will go to work and pay their taxes and keep that money rolling in? I get it. I get it. I don't appreciate it. I get it. I understand it. But I have my issues with it. Like I say, if you're happy going to work, go to work. At the end of the day, we are not bees, we are not ants, we don't live in a colony, as much as other people would like you to think. We are social creatures, we like to have fun and we like to have a good time. Should we be violent? Yeah. We should be. Because at the end of the day, like it or not, we are predators. But not all of us. takes a special kind of person to be able to work in a slaughterhouse. Same as it takes a special kind of person to be a motor mechanic. So, you know, we're all good in our own ways. But our existence is about what makes us feel good. If you're a motor mechanic, the fact that you make money out of being a motor mechanic, that's just a bonus. If you're a true motor mechanic, you are much happier seeing the face of somebody who you've done the work for light up, and the way that they talk to you, the way that they praise you. That's your real pleasure in life, not the money. And if you've turned into that person that is doing it purely for the money and not for the love of the job, then to me you are in the wrong job. Money is just a bonus. And this is why I don't fit in. Because I can't just work for money. And it's weird. If I go back all of the years, the first job I had as a child was to help a milkman on his milk round, and I used to get 5p for helping him. And as a child, I thought that was great, to earn 5p. And then as I got older, and I don't know whether I should blame the educational system, but it meant more to me I'm just trying to figure out how to put this. When I was younger and at school, if you did a good bit of work, we used to have different coloured stars for how good your quality of schoolwork was. And I used to get a few stars, not many. You know, I was not a brilliant student by any means. I have, like I say, mental issues from meningitis. One of those was being able to retain short-term memories. So a lot of my childhood I don't even remember. I only have stories of others. They're not my memories. But I got my stars for producing good work. And as such, that's like a form of payment. But the more stars you got, the less enjoyment that they gave me. Whereas to get the verbal praise from any teacher or from any adult for that matter, to be praised, meant so much more to me than the star. I hope that makes sense. So like I say, as I grew older, the things like the stars and the things like the money meant less and less to me. And the respect and praise of others meant so much more to me. Money isn't everything. See, this to me, this is gaming, running through all this shrubbery and not really caring about getting from A to B. If I was to behave like this in reality, like I say, I would never see anything. But in my young teenage years, when I was into my so-called field sports, if I didn't shoot anything, I wasn't bothered. I enjoyed the day out. Watching the seasons come and go, watching the flowers come and go, watching the fruits and nuts come and go. It meant so much more to me, and I didn't have to put food on the table because, you know, my parents worked and that there were always going to be a dinner there waiting for me, or an evening meal waiting there for me when I got back home. But when I did come back home, with food, it made me feel good, it made me feel as if I was the provider, and it made me happy. There was no money involved. You know, my parents used to charge me board. Did I get any discount off my board for putting food on the table? No. Did that bother me? No. Yeah, I was just happy to be able to provide. And like I say, I never fitted in. Me trying to get a job has always been hard work. Well, getting the job is not hard work. Maintaining the job is hard work. Having the money in my pocket enabled me to be able to go out and have fun. But I've never enjoyed working for other people. Never enjoyed it. They think that because they have given you a job and that they put money in your pocket, that for some unknown reason they seem to think that they are lord and master over you and your time. And they're not. And they've got it the wrong way round. That you working for them, producing whatever quality goods you produce, is what feeds them and puts money in their bank account. And they've got it the wrong way round. And especially with somebody like me, because I can go out and provide for myself. I don't need work, I don't need money. Correction, I need money to buy certain things because I don't have the skills to make them for myself. But when I need that money, I can go out and I can earn it. Once I've got that money and got what I wanted, I don't particularly need the job anymore, thank you very much. In reality, I'm like this dog that I've got with me, you know. Love me up and give me some praise, and I'm as happy as a pig in the proverbial shite. Don't know why we say that, because in reality, pigs are clean. Give them the chance to be clean. So why we say as happy as a pig in shite, I've got no idea. So, you know, becoming a successful streamer don't matter to me. I am doing this purely for fun and to hope that it educates new players. That's the reason I'm doing it. Share the wisdom. Sharing knowledge is what made us evolve as a species, not earning money. Earning money is a means to an end. And if money is what makes you happy, not what you spend it on, but how many zeros you have on the end of your bank balance, if that's what makes you happy, total respect to you. Good luck to you. And I wish I could be like it, but I'm not. If I was like it, then like I say, I'd be off to go to work, I'd be off to keep a job. And I'd be able to fit in with society. And my parents just sit there and say, you know, don't mind about Martin, he's just a loner. as I've gotten older, I am not so much of a loner. My lifestyle, my life choices has left me as a lonely old man. Not by my choice. Because I can't keep my mouth shut, and because I say things that other people don't like to hear, I now find myself as I am. The only time in my life when I was popular is when I had alcohol abuse tendencies, and the only reason I was popular is because I was nice enough and friendly enough to spend my money on other people's drinks. Once I stopped spending my money on their drink, I was no longer Mr. Popular. Simple as. And I have said it before. That my final stepfather in my days of alcohol abuse would say to me, "You think you're popular and you think you've got lots of friends. Trust me, by the time you are 40, You will be lucky if you can count your real friends on one hand. And he was right. And here I am now, knocking on the doors of 60. And I have what I consider to be 2 real friends left in my life. And only one of those can I totally rely on. Just one. And weirdly enough, he's pretty much the same as me. Has mental issues. Doesn't fit in. He's autistic. I don't know whether I'm autistic or not. It is a possibility that I have a form of autism because of suffering meningitis as a child. The people that were supposed to be offering me therapy to diagnose my issues, they were supposed to have been in touch with me by mid-March at the latest, and they haven't. Does that mean I'm too much like hard work for them? Probably not. Probably just means that they're going to wait until they get their government funding before they'll touch me. You know, they want to make money off my condition, after all. And that will then enable me to be a cash cow for that particular system, in just the same way as they took my wife off me, shoved her in a care home. She's now a cash cow. She gives carers work. They get paid. They pay their taxes, whereas my wife, with her brain damage and so on and so forth, she will never be able to work again. She would never be able to contribute towards society in the form of taxes, so she now contributes to society by providing work for others who get paid, who pay their taxes. It sucks. And especially in the care industry, because a lot of people who work in the care industry don't care. It's an easy job to get into and it's easy money. Just like working at McDonald's. It's a shame. Have these events triggered my skepticism or my bitter outlook on life? No. They've just reinforced them. I already knew that was there. I already knew that was there, like I say, from being mid-teenage. So, there you go. Now you know a little bit more about me, why I don't fit in, why I'm doing this, because I've got nobody else to talk to. So I can sit here and pretend, as it is at this moment in time, that people are listening. So I'm not really talking to myself. But if I wasn't doing this, I'd be going deeper and deeper into my own head. Going deeper and deeper into my own head. It's not healthy for me. So that's why I started streaming this. Selfish reasons, but in the hope that it will help beginners to understand the game a little bit more, play the game a bit more, be a bit more successful at the game. Like I say, I don't need to become a successful streamer. If it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. I'm not gonna really push for it. Like I say, when I was younger, I didn't need anybody to talk to. I could just go fishing or shooting and just be out in nature. Now I'm old, I've got health issues, I can't get out so easy. I don't want to step out, to be quite honest. I don't want people to see me. I became, as I got older, younger, in my early teenage years, I became the bully of the bullies. And that's how I grew up. I didn't want to get into fights. I didn't want to be a problem. But because of how I think and how I feel, I suppose you'd call it like a sense of justice. Meant that I got into a lot of fights. Other people would ask me to take care of their problem. And I would attempt to talk to certain people to try and make them see and understand that what they was doing was actually bullying somebody and hurting somebody else. Some of them would take it as advice as it was given. Others would decide it was an excuse to have a go at me. And I'm no champion fighter, I'm not the best fighter in the world. But my mum basically told me there are two kinds of people in life. Those that can fight and those that can run. And I can't run for toffee. And I don't win all of my fights. As in physical ones, logical ones. I used to win most of them. But in recent years, being a law-abiding citizen is not enough. And the legal system is an absolute pig. The legal system quite happily makes things up as it goes along in order to win. And they can make things up. They don't have to provide any real evidence. All they've got to do is say what they think. And then some corrupt judge that forgot the reason why they got involved with the law in the first place. And instead of which they have become puppets, play by the rules, earn extra money, paid for forgetting what the law requires because the legalities don't require it. So they're allowed to think what they want to think. Try again. People are allowed to say what they think instead of what they can prove. And the judge will sit there and go, you know what, I think you're probably right. And they pass judgments on you and they don't even know you. And it is way too easy for people to accuse you of things and destroy your life and everything that you held dear and believed in, and they don't give a damn, because at the end of the day they get paid. I hate the way that it is now happening. You see it unfolding in America now. Where people's thoughts and ideals are considered to be more important I want to be a caterpillar, and I want to be identified as a caterpillar. Good luck to you. And like I said before, as long as we keep fighting with each other and driving wedges between us, those that are in power are happy, because while you're doing it to each other, you're leaving them alone. And in reality, it's those that you should be doing it to, not the normal everyday people. Most of the people I know just want to be left alone. To get on with their own life. They don't want trouble, they don't want conflict. They just want to be left to get on. Most people I know hate paying taxes, don't enjoy the job that they've got, feel utterly and totally stressed and all the rest of it. And that, unfortunately, is how the politicians want you to be. They want you stressed, they want you divided. Whether they can divide you by race, religion, your belief system, whatever you hold dear, if they can encourage opposition to it, they will do so to keep you divided, because they know damn well as if you're all united, and if you're all united against them, they wouldn't stand a chance. As you get older, you'll figure it out. Everything's made so garbage these days. Everything built to fail, not to last. I'm sure it's called the Edison Principle. If I remember rightly, there's something like 2 of the original Edison light bulbs left in the world, and one of them still works. You know, it's like 200 years old and it still works. And it didn't take long for Edison to figure out that he could only sell 1 light bulb per room to you, and that once he had done so, that those light bulbs were going to last. I mean, obviously he didn't know that they were going to last like 200 years, but he knew that, you know, they were going to last for years, and that there was no need for you to buy another one. so you would only be a customer once, and then it was likely to be your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren that would have to replace the light bulb. So he figured it out, that it needed to be made from lesser quality materials so that they would fail. And it ended up becoming a mainstay business plan. So you ended up with TVs. I mean, if you're my age, you'll remember that TVs as a child used to last for years. And that, for me, my memories, most people couldn't afford a brand new TV. They had second-hand ones. And even as second-hand goods, they lasted for years. Now, how long does a TV last you for? 7 years, 10 years, if you're lucky. Washing machines that last for what, 3 to 5 years? Everything built to fail, and anything that is built to last any length of time will cost you an absolute fortune. Otherwise, you know, it's a label that you pay for. You know, Rolls Royce, Lamborghini, Ferrari. Anything and everything to keep you spending your money. Put it back into the system. Because at the end of the day, it's not your money, it's theirs. And they just make it up as they go along. Oh, my bank doesn't have enough money. Let me just print some, make some. Create an imaginary stockpile. I find it amusing that if you was to sit there and look after your money, don't spend it, let it accumulate in the bank, they will give you very little interest on it because they don't want it sat in the bank. that you have sat in the bank. If I remember rightly, they calculate that something like 67% of the money that you have in the bank is all that you need. The other 33% is your buffer zone. And you add up everybody's 33% buffer zone and say, this is what we can lend to other people and charge them extortionate interest rates. It's not even their money, it's yours. And then you go and ask them for a loan, and that's where the loan money comes from, where your mortgages come from. It's not yours. Even if you buy a house, or at least in this country, you get something like a 300-year lease. So yes, you can pass it on to your children and they can pass it on to theirs, but eventually somebody's got to pay for the lease again. It's never yours. But hey ho, there you go. And obviously you can't take anything with you when you're brown bread. And not many people will like me saying this, but if you're okay being broke, stay broke. Die broke. It's taxed you all the way through your life, so in some shape or another. So die broke. And ideally in a shit ton of debt. I shouldn't encourage people to do it. But if everybody was to do it, they'd soon change their mind on how they do things. But it is part of human nature to better ourselves and to provide a better life for our children than what we had. Well, it's all backfiring now. And until they can come up with a new idea on how to make it better. Oh, dear me. It's just going to keep on going how it goes. Build prosperity to crush it, to make it so people think that they have to borrow more money in order to survive and to improve it. Which is why every 30 years or so because it seems to be how long the model lasts. They have to do it all over again, put us all into recession, put us all into desperation. And people think that they need to borrow money to get out of their situation, and they go further and further into debt, which is great for them because, you know, that's how they generate their money, upon your debt, and you borrowing not off them, but you're borrowing off your neighbours, like I say, the ones who have saved their money and have tried to do the right thing. They're the ones who have provided for you in the form of a loan. They should have given you their interest payments, not kept it to themselves. And there are certain religions that do that. Was it Mormons? I think it's the Mormons, where they have their own banking system. So it's your own people, if you like, that pull you out of the quagmire. I mean, obviously you've still got to pay it back. It's not free. But you know, you end up with being desperate for money and desperate for food. They'll bring you boxes of food around, help you out until you're back on your feet. That to me is how it should be. But unfortunately it doesn't seem to get passed around much. Been a long chantering rant today, hasn't it? Oh dear. So as the saying goes, why do men die younger than women? The answer being, because they want to. And I don't think they're wrong. Don't get me wrong, I'm in no hurry to die. But in a lot of ways now, I look forward to it. Tired of how nasty people are to each other. And how people are quite happy to climb all over the backs of others, regardless of what pain they inflict, in order to get one more step up the ladder. Oh yeah. So I suppose I ought to shut up, go and get something to eat, make myself some more coffee. See if my laundry's done. So, for now I'm going to disappear off. Hopefully I haven't made you feel too depressed with my chuntering on. But I will be back later, about an hour or so. Hopefully I will be in a better frame of mind now that I've had a good groan. But for now, I am out of here. So, bye for now.